This video will discuss evaluating expressions, and then on a second page we'll talk about solving a linear equation. We need to obey the rules of what might be called precedence as to what operation is most important. We need to obey these rules that have been set up by mathematicians so that the expression is evaluated in the same way by everyone around the world. So we're going to be solving an equation. Part of that will be simplifying expressions, and we're going to do this. We might have a division problem where there's a numerator and denominator. We'll be careful to simplify the numerator, and then after we've done that, simplify the denominator, and then see if there's any simplification between the two that can be made. When we're up in, let's say, the numerator, we'll look for parentheses, and we'll evaluate the innermost parentheses first, work our way outward. If there's an exponential that doesn't have an unknown in the power or the base, we'll evaluate that, say 3 to the 5th power. We'd evaluate that number. We would process multiplication and division from left to right. That would include distributing through parentheses if we have some multiplication. We'd add and subtract like terms. Very important you recognize what a like term is. 6 plus 7x, that cannot be combined. The 6 is not a like term with 7x, x to the 1st power. So a like term, we have the same variable raised to the same power. 5 plus 7, those are like terms. We could add them and get 12. But we'll practice a little bit with like terms here in just a little bit. So once we've simplified numerator and denominator, then we'll go ahead and see if we can combine the two. So here we have an example: 6 times the quantity, 11 plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 1, a couple of ending parentheses, minus 7, minus 3x, and minus 2 to the 3rd power. Is it legal? We see a 6 out in front here and a 3 in the denominator. Would it be legal to divide those? 6 divided by 3 and put a 2 up in the numerator. Wouldn't have to worry about that denominator anymore. That would be illegal. The 3 that sits down in the denominator deserves to divide into every term, here, 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 and here. And that would create a fraction 7/3 and another fraction at the end. We don't want to be in the business of creating fractions unnecessarily. So we're going to wait. We're just going to do the numerator. So there's an innermost parentheses of x minus 1. I'm distributing here the 2 across that x minus 1 produces 2x minus 2. And then we have, and I've processed the exponential, 2 to the 3rd power produces the 8. Inside the parentheses we have some like terms, the 11 and the minus 2. So I've combined those, and now we have 9 plus 2x in the parentheses. So we can distribute through that. So we get 54 plus 12x minus 7 now, minus 3x minus 8. Do you see like terms here? Yeah, there are two groups. There are the numbers, and then there are the terms that involve x to the 1st power. So if you do those, you get 39. I'll move my page up just a little bit here. You get 39 plus 9x divided by 3. We're done simplifying the numerator. We've got a number, and we've got the term involving x. And now we look and see if we can do any division by 3. And I chose this so it would work out with an even division. So 39 divided by 3, we get the 13. We can't stop there, though. 13 plus 3x would be wrong. This 3 deserves to divide into every term up in the numerator. So 13 plus, and then the 9 divided by 3 gives us 3x. So that's how we simplify an expression. Now let's work on solving a linear equation. So we have here 5 times 6 minus 3x plus 2x equals 6 minus 7x. It's not really obvious what x value will make this a true statement. So we're going to solve this by going through these steps again. We're going to simplify, and now I'm going to simplify each side of the equation. And if you need to pause the video and read my A, B, C, D, E points there, do that. But basically it's the same as we've just performed, the steps of simplification. The last step would be, once we get the variable kind of isolated, we want to divide by its coefficient. So let's see how that works out. So I'm distributing here the 5 multiplying on the 6 minus 3x. I'll pull this down just a little bit so you can see the original problem. I'm distributing through the parentheses, and 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times minus 3 produces minus 15 for a coefficient of x. Then the 2x, 6 minus 7x. There's like terms to be dealt with on the left side here. So we combine the minus 15x plus 2x. That new coefficient is minus 13. And now I'm going to seek to have the unknown on one side, its terms, and terms that involve the numbers on the other side. So I'm adding 13x to both sides. I'm adding 13x to both sides. Minus 13x plus 13x. I'll write it out here if you kind of want to see that. But adding 13x to both sides. In addition, I have a number over here with these x terms I want to get rid of. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So do it in your head or make some notes on the paper you're working on. But we want to end up with numbers on one side and the x terms on the other side. And again, we have like terms. The 30 minus 6 generates a 24, and the minus 7x plus 13x. These coefficients are opposite sign, so we end up with just 6x. And the 13, the positive term, dominates, so we do have a plus 6x. And now our last step would be to get just x by itself. We have 6 times x here. I need to do kind of the reverse operation than multiplication. 6 times x, that would be cleared out. That 6 would be cleared out by dividing by 6 on both sides. So divide by 6, and we get x equals to 4. X equals 4 is the answer for our equation. As you're first doing this, you might want to check your work. So what I've done now is gone back to the original linear equation and put in 4 every place that x appeared. If I slide this back down, so there was an x inside the parentheses multiplied by 3, there was 2 times the x, and there was minus 7x. So every place the x appears, I now put in a 4, my suggested solution. And inside the parentheses, we have 6, we have minus 12, that nets out to minus 6. Over here we have minus 7 times 4, that's a minus 28. Here we have 2 times 4, that's an 8. Just multiply the 5 times the minus 6, that gives us minus 30. And you should keep the parentheses here. It would be misleading for someone else reading your work if you wrote 5 minus 6 plus 8, etc. That would more imply to then subtraction. But there's multiplication going on here. Even though there's no multiplication symbol, it's implied that 5 is multiplying that parentheses value. So minus 30 plus 8, 6 minus 28, you can see where we're headed here. We get minus 22 on both sides. So we do have a true statement. We have equality. We have solved this linear equation. So practice with that. Again, remember the rules of evaluating parentheses, the innermost parentheses first, work your way out. Evaluate exponentials that don't have an unknown in them, and then perform multiplication and division, perform addition and subtraction to combine the like terms. You're on your way to solving. So ask your instructor if you have questions with this.